befell him from first to last, the better to pass away our time while we take our rest."
Thereupon the first, he of the lanthorn, and whose name was Bukhayt, said, "I'll tell you my tale."
"Say on," replied they.
So he began as follows the first tale of the first eunuch Bukhayt. Know, O my brothers, that when I was a little one, some 5 years old, I was taken home from my native country by a slave driver who sold me to a certain apparitor. My purchaser had a daughter 3 years old, with whom I was brought up, and they used to make mock of me, letting me play with her and dance for her and sing to her, till I reached the age of 12 and she that of 10. And even then they did not forbid me seeing her. One day I went in to her and found her sitting in an inner room, and she looked as if she had just come out of the bath which was in the house, for she was scented with essences and reek of aromatic woods, and her face shone like a circle of the moon on the 14th night. She began to sport with me and I with her. Now I had just reached the age of puberty, so my prickle stood at point, as it were a huge key. Then she threw me on my back and mounting astraddle on my breast, fell a wriggling and bucking upon me till she had uncovered my yard. When she saw it standing with head erect, she hent it in hand and began rubbing it upon the lips of her little slit outside her petticoat trousers. Thereat hot lust stirred in me and I threw my arms round her, while she wound hers about my neck and hugged me to her with all her might, till, before I knew what I did, my pistol split up her trousers and entered her slit and did away her maidenhead. When I saw this I ran off and took refuge with one of my comrades. Presently her mother came in to her and, seeing her in this case, fainted clean away. However, she managed the matter advisedly and hid it from the girl's father out of goodwill to me. Nor did they cease to call to me and coax me, till they took me from where I was. After 2 months had passed, her mother married her to a young man, a barber who used to shave her papa, and portioned and fitted her out of her own monies, whilst the father knew nothing of what had passed. On the night of consummation they cut the throat of a pigeon poult and sprinkled the blood on her shift. After a while they seized me unawares and gelded me, and when they brought her to her bridegroom they made me her Aga, her eunuch, to walk before her wheresoever she went, whether to the bath or to her father's house. I abode with her a long time, enjoying her beauty and loveliness, by way of kissing and clipping and coupling with her, till she died, and her husband and mother and father died also, when they seized me for the royal treasury as being the property of an intestate, and I found my way hither, where I became your comrade. This, then, O my brethren, is the cause of my cullions being cut off, and peace be with you." He ceased and his fellow began in these words, the tale of the second eunuch Kafur.
"Know, O my brothers, that when beginning service as a boy of 8, I used to tell the slave dealers regularly and exactly one lie every year, so that they fell out with one another, till at last my master lost patience with me and, carrying me down to the market, ordered the brokers to cry, 'Who will buy this slave, knowing his blemish and making allowance for it?' He did so and they asked him, 'Pray what may be his blemish?' and he answered, 'He telleth me one single lie every year.' Now a man that was a merchant came up and said to the broker, 'How much do they allow for him with his blemish?' 'They allow 600 dirhams,' he replied, and said the other, 'Thou shalt have 20 dirhams for thyself.' So he arranged between him and the slave dealer, who took the coin from him, and the broker carried me to the merchant's house and departed after receiving his brokerage. The trader clothed me with suitable dress, and I stayed in his service the rest of my 12 month until the new year began happily. It was a blessed season, plenteous in the produce of the earth, and the merchants used to feast every day at the house of some one among them, till it was my master's turn to entertain them in a flower garden without the city. So he and the other merchants went to the garden, taking with them all that they required of provaunt and else beside, and sat eating and carousing and drinking till midday, when my master, having need of some matter from his home, said to me, "O slave, mount the she mule and hie thee to the house and bring from thy mistress such and such a thing, and return quickly." I obeyed his bidding and started for the house, but as I drew near it I began to cry out and shed tears, whereupon all the people of the quarter collected, great and small, and my master's wife and daughters, hearing the noise I was making, opened the door and asked me what was the matter. Said I, "My master was sitting with his friends beneath an old wall, and it fell on one and all of them, and when I saw what happened to them I mounted the mule and came hither in haste to tell you." When my master's daughter and wife heard this, they screamed and rent their raiment and beat their faces, whilst the neighbours came around them. Then the wife overturned the furniture of the house, one thing upon another, and tore down the shelves and broke the windows and the lattices and smeared the walls with mud and indigo, saying to me, "Woe to thee, O Kafur! Come help me to tear down these cupboards and break up the vessels and this china ware and the rest of it." So I went to her and aided her to smash all the shelves in the house, with whatever stood upon them, after which I went round about the terrace roofs and every part of the place, spoiling all I could and leaving no china in the house unbroken, till I had laid waste the whole, crying out the while, "Well away, my master!" Then my mistress fared forth barefaced, wearing a head kerchief and naught else, and her daughters and the children sallied out with her and said to me, "O Kafur, go thou before us and show us the place where thy master lieth dead, that we may take him from under the fallen wall and lay him on a bier and bear him to the house and give him a fine funeral." So I went forth before them crying out, "Slack, my master!" and they after me with faces and heads bare and all shrieking, "Alas! Alas for the man!" Now there remained none in the quarter, neither man nor woman nor epicene nor youth nor maid nor child nor old trot, but went with us smiting their faces and weeping bitterly, and I led them leisurely through the whole city. The folk asked them what was the matter, whereupon they told them what they had heard from me, and all exclaimed, "There is no Majesty and there is no might save in Allah!" Then said one of them, "He was a personage of consequence; so let us go to the Governor and tell him what hath befallen him." When they told the Governor,—And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. End of Section 6 of the Book of 1000 Nights and a Night, Volume 2. Read by Lars Rolander.